This is Sporting Life.
Hi everyone, welcome to the latest Sporting Life Racing podcast. It is QIPCO British Champions Day edition at Ascot on Saturday, and we've got a 5-strong panel to talk you through the action, including myself, the host Ben Linfoot, and with Matt Brocklebank, Graham Cunningham, David Johnson and Billy Nash to talk all things Champions Day. GC, I'm going to kick off with you. You set the scene beautifully on the website on Sunday with your Cunningham file, and it's all set up to be a brilliant day Saturday, isn't it? The stars have aligned for Champions Day.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ben. Hello, lads. I think so. It's hard not to be highly optimistic about a great day's racing at Ascot this weekend. That haven't got the final count, but it's going to be 20-plus different Group 1 winners. It's going to be a brilliant Champion Stakes, no question about it. So Ascot, third week in October, does need a few things to fall its way. This time it looks like they are doing. And, you know, you read a lot of different things in the build-up to a meeting like this, and I'm already reading lots of people attracted to horses at big prices and good horses at big prices, and I get it. But there's something different this year. The horses with the very best Group 1 form have good ground. And I'm thinking and hoping that gives the cream a real chance to rise to the top this weekend. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, it could do. We're going to go through the schedule chronologically throughout the programme, and then we'll wrap up at the end with a short-priced horse we fancy, a Champions Day nap, if you will, a Champions Day lay, one we're against at a short price, and then a big price fancy as well, if you've got one to chuck in. So we'll wrap that up at the end. DJ, just before we go through the first race, you know, when we're looking at time form ratings, that top class figure, we have to look for the a 130 rating. That could be smashed a couple of times this Saturday, hopefully.
Yeah, certainly fingers crossed with that. The Champion Stakes is very much a potential for that, isn't there? I think we've got 3 horses all in there around the that sort of barrier already, and an impressive win from either of or any of those could probably see it beaten. And I think Field of Gold, he's already at that kind of level, isn't he, in the mile? And if he comes back in that sort of form like we saw in the St James's Palace, obviously he's got to come back from that poor run at Goodwood where he finished lame. But the fact that he's turning up, you'd certainly be hopeful. And we really do need to see a really good miler, don't we? And he looks like he might be the one.
I'll just say a quick hello to Billy and Matt before we get into the long distance cup. Billy, strong Irish team.
Strong enough, Matt, or Ben, yeah, strong enough. Hopefully, it looks like Aidan O'Brien's going to send plenty, so he looks to have some live candidates. Hopefully, Delacroix is going to turn up in the Champion Stakes, and yeah, it's a strong team without being numerically that big, I suppose. Aidan certainly firing plenty of bullets.
And Matt, GC saying there it might be a Saturday for the short priced horses. I'm sure you've probably got a few bigger ones up your sleeve, haven't you?
Yeah, it's always an interesting balance, isn't it? And GC's mentioned it there. It's that balance between ground at the end of the season, or is it at the end of a long campaign for a few of these horses? And we'll probably get a better gauge this year in terms of sort of how that's weighted, because we have got a decent ground, but we are still at the end of a long season for a lot of these horses. Delacroix there, he started on March the 30th, a couple of weeks after the Gold Cup at Cheltenham. So, you know, some of these horses have been on the go a long time. I'm probably going to take a couple of them on. But it's not a bad betting card, is it? I don't think, despite there only being the one handicap.
Right then, let's get into the action. 12:55 first race on Saturday, the long distance cup, and I sense there might be a few with the bankers in this race, because DJ Trawlerman sets a good standard, doesn't he, in this race, and he's got his ground. Everything looks well for him in this.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, the lack of opposition is a big thing in his favour as well. I think there's a couple of Aidan O'Brien horses, and I know they were talking that the Gosden horse that won at Doncaster, he was going to be done for the season, wasn't he? But I think looking at the lack of opposition, they're sort of probably trying to pinch a bit of prize money with him to try and really make an attempt on the trainer's title. But yeah, this is very much Trawlerman's to lose, isn't it? He's a previous winner of the race. He sets a clear standard. You're really looking for negatives for him, and there aren't really many to find, I don't think.
GC, it's probably the one disappointing race, isn't it, in terms of the 6-day entries? Obviously, first iteration as a Group 1, and there isn't an awful lot of opposition to Trollerman.
Exactly. Have a look. Kyprios retired. Trushan didn't make it after Goodwood. Scandinavia, the big loss. And Sebaen, the up-and-coming French stayer, he's not running either. They've shuffled the pack here, gents. I think this was meant to be race 2. But from a World Pool point of view, they've obviously thought it's a bit of a passion killer with an odds-on favourite. So they've made this the first race on the card. And I was quite tempted by Sweet William at 8-1 the other day, suspecting, in fact, knowing that 1 or 2 wouldn't turn up. But Trawlerman gave him £3 and beat him on the square at York in the Lonsdale Cup. Now, go back to this year. Kyprios won it. Sweet William got the better of the battle for second place with Trawlerman, so he can put it up to his stablemate. But all in all, it's a fairly low-key start to the day. What's a tremendous card, don't get me wrong, and it'll be a disappointment, I think, to most people if Trawlerman can cement. He's already going to be champion stayer, but he's highly likely to cement it here. Dead uncomplicated, dead consistent, better than ever at the age of 7.
Matt, you wouldn't be wanting to take on Trollerman, would you? He looks like a very solid start to the card.
Can't pick holes in him. Yeah, no, can't pick holes in him at all. We're only going to get 5 or 6 runners here. It is a bit disappointing. I wasn't expecting it, but if there is a wrong price, I'm with GC. Sweet William's the wrong price, isn't he? Shouldn't he be the one that's 7-2? I mean, we've got Stay True here, unproven at the trip, yet to win a race outside of Maiden Company. He's 7-2. Sweet William's 7-1. You go back and watch the race last year. He has finished in front of him. Take Kyprios out, and Sweet William is a worthy winner of this race. We've seen him back to form at Doncaster last time, and it's sort of a back to lay, isn't it? If you're that way inclined, he will travel better than most of these, and perhaps Trawlerman will go for it a long way out and have him in trouble. But I could see Sweet William swinging away for a long time, hanging in there. He looks the wrong price to me.
Yeah, I agree. Billy Nash.
Yes, sir.
Aidan has Stay True, possibly Saratoga. 3-year-olds, I believe. Now I'm going to quote quite a few stats here. I've stolen them all. Salute to Andy Stevens on Racing TV. They're really interesting stats piece on their website at the moment. 3-year-olds 0 from 20 in this race. Billy, what do you make of Stay True and possibly Saratoga?
3-year-olds will be 0 from 22 at the end of this weekend.
Thank you.
If the 2 of them run.
You.
Look, I quite like Stay True. He's a very progressive colt, but Aidan has had to dip into the subs bench here because obviously Scandinavia, they're keeping him for next year. They want to prolong his career. He doesn't need to run in this race after winning the Ledger. Illinois clearly had an issue in the Irish Ledger and hasn't recovered from it. So, these are very much the B team. Stay True is progressing nicely. I think I've said it before, I think he's very much a horse for next year. And I think this will tell them what they do with him for next year. Is he going to be good enough to compete with these top stayers? He'll need to put up a performance here. And if he isn't, then who knows? Maybe they'll move him on and send him to pastures new. And he's from the last crop of Galileo, so I'm sure they'll be doing their utmost to get a big win out of him if they can. But it's not going to be this weekend because when even Matt Brocklebank can't take on the favourite, then you're on a hiding to nothing. So it's Trawlerman's race to lose, clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the second race, 1:30, the new race, 2-year-old condition stakes. And DJ, I guess it's been difficult for Ascot to try and get a 2-year-old race onto the card, given the programme for juveniles at this time of year. But they've got a 6-furlong conditions race, 250 grand, and the first batch of entries we've got for it's done pretty well in that regard.
Yeah, I think the 6-furlong trip works better than obviously 7 furlongs or a mile. 7 furlongs, you're worried about it taken away from the Dewhurst, and similarly, we've also got the Futurity over a mile to come. So you wouldn't want to see this race taken away from those group races, whereas this sort of complements to a certain extent a late maturing type that wasn't quite ready for the middle park, or gives an opportunity for a horse that came up short in the middle park. And I think that's what we've got here, haven't we, with Words of Truth, who won the Mill Reef. The Mill Reef obviously came very quickly, the middle part came very quickly on the back of the Mill Reef, so couldn't really fit that in. And Brussels is obviously desperately trying to get that group race win and keeps trying, keeps coming up short, but this looks a good opportunity.
Yeah, I think this might be a different race in future editions on when we get the expected softer ground, but on good ground it's going to suit a certain type of horse. GC, have you got any additional fancies?
Well, the certain type of horse is a group race horse trained by Aidan O'Brien or Charlie Appleby. They should have shown much more imagination in the framing of the conditions of this race. It's a great price, 250 grand, but surely they should have put in some sort of penalty for horses who've won a pattern race or even gone very close in it, because you're going to end up every year, if it stays like this, with those two top yards at the top of the market. I would think Brussels probably deserves to be closer in the market to Words of Truth. They've both got good quality pattern race form. Brussels 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs are both come alike to him. Second in the Middle Park and then pipped by a nose in the Cornwallis. He's just in really good form, and he's very capable, I think, of giving the favourite a shake here. There will be one or two improvers. One or two of the other lads can talk about Division, who seems to be progressing really well for Haggis. Sir Albert is down in trip after some really good performances over 1400. And I'm interested to hear what Billy thinks about this this other Ballydoyle horse, Mission Central. I always call him Mission Control. Mission Central. I think he has some dark thoughts, that fella. And when he was pressured in the Flying Childers, I'm not sure he enjoyed it. But I like the addition of this race to the card, but I think they could have kept it fairly simple. Lots of people have always wanted a good 2-year-old race on this card. Why didn't they just take the Royal Lodge Stakes back to its former home? Mile on the Round Course, Group 2, that would have been a perfect fit. Newmarket wouldn't have missed it too much, and that would have been job done. But I think Brussels is slightly overpriced compared to the favourite at the moment.
Billy, if you want to talk through Aidan's squad for this and who might probably turn up.
Well, first of all, GC likes the addition of this race. I absolutely don't. They've clearly shoehorned this into a card where it's not needed, but it's another World Pool incentive that we're kind of stuck with and we have to put up with. This race has no business being on a Champions Day card.
Hang on a sec, Billy. Billy, the first point, it was never meant to be a World Pool race, Billy. It was meant to be race 1 on the card and not a World Pool race, so I have to pull you up on that.
Is that not the whole point of the World Pool, that they put on these additional races? We've seen it in Ireland a couple of times during the year where we have these 9 race cards specifically for the World Pool. And is this just not another one?
I think you're reading you might be right about the Irish point, but I think you're reading too much into a little bit about this placement. I think the desire for a 2-year-old race on this card predates the World Pool by a fair bit, to be honest.
Okay, well, in that case, I would entirely agree with you. Why not put a decent, like a group race, a Royal Lodge or something? I don't see the need for this conditions race, 2-year-old conditions race on this card, but I'm getting off point. You asked me about the Ballydoyle horses. Clearly, Brussels has a big chance if he turns up again, but he's been pretty busy. He's running the Middle Park and the Cornwallis. Third trip to England in a couple of weeks. Will that take the edge off him? Perhaps. And he has possibly a quirk or two himself. He does have quite a high head carriage, but so does Mission Central, as GC pointed out. He has loads of talent, this fella. One of the very few Ballydoyle geldings that they keep in training as a 2-year-old. That'll just show you what he's been doing at home, but he obviously has his own ideas about the game. He's very talented, but I think the drop back to 5 probably didn't suit him in the Flying Childers. They seem to take him off his feet a small bit, so returning to 6 will suit, but at the same time, he's one I'd be, unless the price was really right, he's one I'd be inclined to swerve, certainly in a race like this. I think the top 2 in the market, Words of Truth and Brussels, as GC says, not penalised in a race like this gives them a huge advantage. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't one of the 2 of those that came out on top here. John, I might have an opinion on Division. I wouldn't have a strong opinion on that horse.
Here comes another Andy Stevens stat. Salute to Andy. How many winners do you think Charlie Appleby's had on Champions Day since 2011 at Ascot?
Oh, great question. Can't think of many.
It's not many at all, is it?
One.
I read the piece, but I'll keep quiet. It's cheating otherwise.
It is a surprising stat, isn't it?
It is. I mean, he targets the Breeders' Cup, doesn't he? Like his whole autumn is, about America, but yeah, still surprising. I quite like the addition of the 2-year-old race. I must admit, I think having been to quite a few Champions Days, it's just felt like it needed a 7th race certainly, and the 2-year-olds was the obvious pull to dip into. I think it might be a foot in the door job this, and we might see this conditions race develop over the years. It'd be interesting to see how it does. Matt, as for this year, firstly, what about division? Because he's 3rd or 4th favourite and ran a cracker at York on Saturday when he won the Rockingham Stakes. He looks to be improving at the right time for this sort of race.
He did, yeah. Son of Kingman. I heard James Doyle speaking warmly about him on the Nick Luck Daily podcast yesterday. He'll be back on board him after Tom Marquand rode him in the listed race. Yeah, he's progressive. He's really progressive. He's got the string of ones next to his name. Words of Truth is definitely the horse to beat. Interesting one. This is I hadn't spotted that the Mission Central was a gelding as well, but this could be a day for the geldings. GC. There's a gelding Acker. Words of Truth, obviously a gelding here as well, and we'll come to more later on the card, no doubt. But I'd be amazed if the first race doesn't go to a gelding. But yeah, Words of Truth looks classy, doesn't he, as well? I have backed one here, though. Do you want to know what I've backed? I've backed one at a big price, 16 to 1. I've taken some prices here. Each way price is about Siren Suit. Really hoping that he turns up, obviously. He's had a recent run on the all-weather Gosden's horse for Cheveley Park. He looks priced up on his official rating to me, and that's only 88, which is way short of what he's going to be able to run to. But I just don't think that can be right. Based on his second start, which came at Ascot in the spring, he feels capable of a lot better than that. He was 3rd to Wise Approach over 5 furlongs. That one, obviously, he's rated 114 now. He's won the Middle Park. And Siren Suit in behind, actually split horses now rated 100 and 105. So we know the ability's there. He's obviously had some sort of summer setback or being allowed to fill his frame a little bit in the intervening period. But he's dotted up the other day in Kempton over 7 furlongs. It was 10 days ago, so it's pretty tight, but it just looked like a piece of work to me. And I'm hoping that might have teed him up for this. His dam Angel's Hideaway, some of you might remember, she won the Princess Margaret over this course and distance, went on to be 3rd in the Jersey. I mean, we know this horse handles Ascot already, but I like a bit of Ascot in the pedigree. And I think he's a potential shortener here for the Gosdens, especially if they've got off the mark in the first race.
I love a Gosden horse when he brings it to a good race at Ascot and it looks like it needs to find a bundle of improvement. You just sort of already factor it in some ways, don't you, that it's coming?
They don't get the 88. Yeah, the 88 mark. It's based on, well, winning a maiden just last time. Time form got him a bit higher, Dave, DJ? Maybe not. I'll look into that.
A little bit higher, yeah. Like you say, it comes down to that.
P?
Yeah, certainly he's got the P. He's 90p with time form. And yeah, you look at that Ascot race, the way that's worked out, it could be higher still, couldn't it? When you see some of the horses and what they've done since. And yes, if the Gosdens are rolling those big dice, you want to be with them.
Okay, let's crack on to the 205, the British Champions Sprint Stakes, and this is a division that has been wide open all year long. But we've got some really good Ascot specialists in here, GC, and probably the one to beat is Lazat after what he did at the Royal Meeting in June.
Yeah, they're going to be. How about let's have a look? Lazat, Big Mojo, Montasib, Kind of Blue, Nisherin, Art Power. No half measures. That's a lot of Group 1 winners in this race. Yeah, a lot of Group 1 winners. I am still a Lazat fan. I know he's been beaten twice since that QE2 Jubilee win, but there's no question that form is very solid. Horse he came clear with, Satono Rev, is a high-class Japanese horse. He was 3 and a bit clear of the likes of Flora, of Bermuda, Inisherin, etc. If he's the same horse, he's gonna run extremely well. So lots of people will look for value outside of him, and it is a big sprint, and they can and do often throw up funky results. But I'm pretty convinced that Lazat was kiboshed in a big way by a massive stand rail draw bias at Haydock. Don't forget, and it was a terrible price in retrospect, he was punted all the way down to even money even money at Haydock, and he's now 4-1, 9-2 to beat quite a few of the same horses here. So I'm with him. I'm conscious of the danger of last year's winner, Kind of Blue. Big Mojo definitely benefited from the draw at Haydock, but he was quite a decisive winner in the end, and he's a very likable horse. But I'm a Lazat fan here for Doyle and Renier. I think if he's the same horse he was in June, with a rating of 124 time form, there aren't too many sprinters running around with that sort of rating. And I do think it's called the Champions Sprint. I do think the Champions Sprinter crown is still vacant. Yes, Asphora, she's got 2 Group 1s. But if Lazat were to win this and win it tidily, I think his body of work might usurp what Asfora's done this year.
DJ, I'm guessing Lazat's clear on time form ratings. Just how far clear is he, and who would time form consider the main dangers to be?
Yeah, Lazat does had the ratings on a adjusted figure of 134, and GC sort of outlined it there when he described what he did at Royal Ascot, coming clear with Satono Rev. It's just better than what the British sprinters can do. Big Mojo, he's second in based on recency, I think, as much as anything, really, with that Haydock sprint win. There is a slight concern that it might flatter him a little bit, and some of the others that raced right on the rail that day. I think that there's one that looks really interesting to me at a big price in this. It's this Witness Stand, who obviously isn't known as a sprinter, but he's got some really good form over 7. He won the Lennox. It was a race that panned out really well for him at a big price, and there was a question mark about whether that flattered him a little bit. But then you go and look at that Hungerford Stakes run, where he's giving weight to More Thunder, and okay, More Thunder beat him fairly comfortably, but he was also giving plenty of weight to Marvel Man, and that form's been boosted by that horse as well, and has obviously been supplemented for the QE2, as we'll discuss later. But I think if you forgive that performance out in France last time in the Forêt, where he was drawn in the car park, could never get into the race, on his actual form, he's bang there compared to some of these horses. And I just think 33-1 and bigger, he's entitled to go a lot closer than what those odds suggest. So at a big price in an open race, I'd be looking to side with something like him.
Colin Keane's on him, I think, isn't he?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I just make a quick point? I don't want to hog the mic. If you like fancied horses, which I do for this weekend, one of the worst things you can do is read a Paul Keeley piece. It puts you right. It puts you right back in your box, as he's making a strong case for all these, bigger price horses, and he makes it persuasively as well. Paul's making a case for Witness Stand. Andy Stevens, here comes Andy again in the sprint. Headgear horses, 0 for 45 in the sprint since 2011. He also makes a strong case against Field of Gold, and cites the fact that Colin Keane is only 3 from 80 odd at Ascot. And Colin Keane's riding Witness Stand, the horse he fancies in the sprint. So you pay your money, take your choice. And here we go.
When are you going to quote Ben Linfoot's excellent piece on Sporting Life?
Well, I read everybody's stuff. But I was just picking up. The Keeley's was the last one I read before I joined this extravaganza this morning, and there's one or two little, how shall we say, little contradictions in there. But if you're getting a big price about Witness Stand, you can afford to take on a chance on a terrible jockey like Ian Billy, can't you?
He's always got to be a positive, hasn't he, Billy Colin Keane? That strike rate can only get better, surely.
What's bound to? That certainly wouldn't put me off anyway.
Billy, if Dave Ord was here, he'd be making an awful, tiresome gag about the state of Irish sprinting and where are they all? But there is one in there.
Yeah, aren't we lucky Dave Ord isn't here? There is one in there, yeah, and I don't think he's going to improve our fortunes too much in this division, to be honest. King Cuan for Paddy Toomey. Look, he's had a reasonably good season. Was just touched off by Art Power in I think it was the Renaissance at the Cor of the last day. But this is his first foray into Group 1 company. Hard to see him being good enough to win it, Scoop. And I think possibly wants a bit of an ease in the ground as well, if to be at his absolute best. So couldn't see him winning it. But look, it's a wide open race. As GC said, I think there's something like 7 Group 1 winners in the race. It's a pity we don't have Parry Mutual here, because if you could just couple up all those Watnan racing horses, you'd surely come up with you'd have a really strong case here. Lazat, Kind of Blue, and Flora Bermuda, all three of them surely have really decent chances. I'd be kind of in the GC camp with Lazat. I think after his run at Haydock, he's, things didn't pan out from there. If he's back to his best, he'll take plenty of beating. At at a bigger price, kind of half interested in the other French horse, Francis Henri Graffard's Rayevka. I thought ran really well in the Commonwealth Cup, and while on the face of things was probably a little bit disappointing last time with Shanti, the horses she split both ran well in the Abbey, so back to 6 furlongs will suit her. Maybe she's not quite good enough, but I could certainly see her giving you a run for your money at a reasonable price in this race.
Yeah, she's interesting for sure in a Commonwealth Cup form. Matt, if you're going to get a boil over or an each way selection, perhaps come in a Group 1 on Saturday, this is a race you're looking at, considering the sprint division this year, surely.
I think so, yeah. I've got a lot of respect for Lazat, obviously. This is a top class, a world-class horse. It was just a little bit flat, the Haydock run, I thought. And he's had, another really long truncated season. He's had breaks, but he's had a long period on the go, obviously out in kind of the Middle East, I think, in the winter time. I will take him on. It was interesting, yeah. Arizona Blaze obviously did win the Flying Five, just a nod to the Irish sprinters there, which did boost the Commonwealth Cup form. I was going to mention Rayevka myself. I think Billy's just about nailed it. It was interesting. Graffard basically put his cards on the table and said, yes, she was drawn wide in the Abbey, so we took her out. That was quite an interesting comment. So she's coming here instead. She didn't possibly let herself down on the good to firm at Royal Ascot either. I thought that was a good run that maybe wants marking up. She's a player. I like Montasib. He's probably about the right price. I like him. I'd have liked him more if it had rained as well. I thought the comeback run was particularly eye-catching. It was probably a good idea to give him that sharpener over 5 furlongs. And he was slow away again, wasn't he? And he sort of did that in this race last year. I know he possibly wasn't drawn brilliantly, but he shaped it extremely well. He's very fresh and lightly raced. I would imagine he's been trained for one day and one day only. I like him. If we can get a bit bigger than sort of 6-7 to 1, I might consider backing him. One at a massive price that hasn't been mentioned yet. He is going to be a big price as well. It's 10 Bob Tony, and again, maybe softer ground would suit. But I think this is another horse with decent 7 furlong form that might just appreciate this kind of test at this stage in the season. He's had a very light campaign. He beat Kinross at the start of the year. Everything was looking rosy for him when he won the John O'Gaunt at the end of May, and then he's missed a load of time. The ground's come up really quick, obviously, through the summer, and then he ran pretty lamentably behind that Marble Man in the Park Stakes at Doncaster. But he was back to form last time. I thought he ran a really good race in the Foray. It was a promising effort. That again, it was very soft at Longchamp, but it put him back on track. And I know Ed Walker thinks a lot of this horse. I could see him sort of sneaking a bit of the action, maybe at 33 to 1, 10 Bob Tony.
Okay, that's the Champions Sprint. Let's move on. 2:45, the Fillies and Mares, and we've got a returning hero, GC, in Calpana, and you've been banging her drum for a few months. Are you going in again?
Well, yes, I think I am, actually. Even though my friend and colleague Andy Stevens points out that, hang on, I've lost it. But I think there have been 4 fillies who won this race, tried to win it again the following year, and none of them finished better than 4th. I think that's correct.
How many of them
5.
came here with the form that Calpana does, though?
The stats are the stats, DJ. Let's not get, put nuance into the equation. None of the 5 defending champs in the Fillies and Mares have finished better than 4th. But yes, I am a Calpana fan for that old-fashioned reason that I think she's the best horse in the race. Not too long ago, since she split Calandagan and Rebel's Romance in the King George. Yes, she was turned over by Giavolotto, but he's a high-quality horse. And I think we'd all agree that she got a really, really tough trip in the Arc. Parked out wide with no cover from a long way out. So provided she has bounced back reasonably well from that, with that rating in the 120s, she's a different kind of cat than the one who runs in this race. She's just got better form than most of the horses who line up in this race. And if you watch what she did in this race last year, when she was a really emphatic winner, she's probably a better horse now than she was then. I think she should be favourite.
Yeah,
She is. She is now. She was 6-1 at the start of the week, wasn't she? She's now 100-30 ahead of a Strange at 4-1, I believe.
would you be more confident, GC, if the ground was softer?
Not especially, no. I don't think it will be fast at the weekend. No, I wouldn't. I just think she's more than good enough to go really close against this lot.
Matt, chat to me about Estrange for David O'Mara, because she has looked a potential high-class filly on occasions, and obviously missed the arc and comes in here.
She did. I've got 3 horses to mention here, Scoop, and not one of them was Estrange, but I'll perfectly happy to talk about her. I don't think we saw the very best of her in the Yorkshire Oaks, did we? Rattling quick ground, really fast. All credit to them for racing her that day. It would have been a complete non-event without her. Mini Hawk swept by her, clearly better suited to the conditions. And Estrange, unfortunately,
Better, just
had to
better.
miss the
Hang
arc.
on.
Now,
Hang on. Just way better. Just way better than Estrange. Yeah. Not on
Mini Hawk.
conditions, was it? Just way
Mini Hawk
better
was
than
way
that.
better than Estrange on the day. Yeah, but Estrange, she didn't look comfortable on the ground at all. So I don't think it was a fair playing field when it comes to
I
seeing
thought she was going to beat
the
it 2
absolute best of Estrange. Yeah.
Go on,
I mean, there was a brief moment where you thought she's almost the equal of her, and she didn't go through with her effort on the conditions, in my opinion. She didn't handle quick ground at Yarmouth as a younger horse as well last year. It is a shame she missed the arc. She comes here, obviously they would be hoping for softer ground, but she'll be fine on the conditions. I think Kalpana is a better filly than her, fractionally. I'll mention We Take the Long Way. The 3-year-old for Joseph
agreed.
O'Brien's. She's actually, I'm going to be that annoying person that says she's got something in common with Dariz, because they're the only 2 horses to have ever beaten Mini Hawk. But she's obviously not anything like that. But she's been held in very high regard, put it that way. She was thrown in against the Colts. Delacroix, she ran in the Ballysacks at the start of the season. She went to the Oaks. She ran in the Irish Oaks. She ran it with Pretty Polly, against older horses. She really has been thrown in at the deep end, and then they've kind of eased off her, brought her back with a really good run in the Prix de l'Opera at Longchamp. Now, I did speak to Fran very briefly before this, and he sort of as recently spoke to connections of this horse, and they were a bit concerned that 1.5 miles would stretch her around Ascot, and that really the Opera was kind of like her big opportunity to bag one this autumn. And she was punted, wasn't she? She went off favourite, I think, just the other week, and only beaten half a length. So interesting that she comes here again. I think she was big price anti-post. She's halved that now, but could still be a little bit of juice in her. But she's got a fair way to go, hasn't she, to meet Kalpana?
Billy, I bet you like her, but what would you say when I tell you that Joseph O'Brien has never had a winner on Champions Day? Andy Stevens stat there for you.
I was going to say, where did you get that stat, GC?
He's had a couple placed in this race, I think.
He could have, yeah.
Do you like her, Billy?
Think she's certainly worth her position in the field, and she could run well. I couldn't see her winning it. She's come up short at this sort of level throughout the season. I think that might be the case again. But I actually would be seriously making a case for the other Irish filly in the race, One Look for Paddy Toomey. She's stepping up to 1.5 miles for the first time. It's a bit of an unknown, but she has improved for the step up to 1.25 miles this year. She was a bit unlucky in the Blandford. I thought got caught a bit too far back in that particular race, or the race at the Curragh. And then after that, she was very unlucky in the Opera. I mean, things didn't go away. She probably should have won the Opera. And just looking at the makeup of this race, I don't see an awful lot of pace in it. Depending on what Aidan O'Brien does, he might run a pacemaker. If he doesn't, there isn't a natural front runner in the race, so it might not turn into a specific test of stamina. And if it doesn't, I think One Look would have a big chance. To be honest, I'd be against Kalpana in this race. Yes, she has the best form on offer. We can all see that. but she's had a tough enough end of the season. I think this is a bit of an afterthought. The Arc was her run. That's the race they had marked out for all year. She had a tough enough race there. This is a quick turnaround. I think at the prices I'd be willing to take her on here. And I think certainly Estrange has a big chance. I thought that run behind Minnie Hawk was a cracking effort. But one look, I think I could see her certainly running well. I think of the Irish, she's the one that I prefer here anyway.
Billy, you summed that up really neatly. One look, We Might Take a Long Way Home and Kalpana all ran on Arc weekend. And I can tell you that 14 Arc meeting runners have gone on to win on Champions Day in the same year. So another start for you there.
It's an interesting one, though, isn't it, with a quick turnaround? DJ, have you anything to add on the Fillies and Mares?
I think Kalpana is obviously a pretty. She sets such a good standard. I think you're sort of looking at it thinking the only way that she's going to get beat is if she doesn't give a run in, and I'm happy to side with her. I just don't think the way that the Arc panned out was in any way a reflection of her, and she still wasn't beaten that far. You look at the sectionals, she's actually ran as she made up that ground out wide between the 800 and the 400. She's actually gone quicker than what the first two did, and she just hasn't been able to sustain it. So hopefully Colin Keane, okay, maybe he doesn't ride Ascot that well either, but we'll see if he can get it right this time. But I think she's a genuinely Group 1 filly. She's running against another genuine Group 1 filly in that Quisana, but she didn't run quite so well in the Arc, so the same question marks are there for her. You've got Estrange that might be a Group 1 filly, and then the rest, I just don't think they are. So it's Kalpana's to lose, and as long as she gives a run in, and I see no reason why she wouldn't, I think she's a good bet around 3-1.
We should mention Wardar, who has a fair bit to find, but she is definitely improving. And she probably got to the front a little bit too early when she beat Danielle over 1 mile and 6 at Goodwood. So she adds a bit of spice to it, but Kalpana, I think, for me.
Yeah, it's a good race. What I'd throw in is potentially the Juddmonte second string. Attack, because she's only had the 5 runs for Arc winning trainer Francie Henri.
What happened last time, though? What happened last time?
Well, it was the Prix de Royale, and it was 1 mile 6 on softer ground, and I don't think either of those factors suited her. I think 1.5 miles on better ground, like she had at Deauville in the summer, is exactly what this daughter of Frankel wants. With that in mind, I thought she might be able to improve to have a say, but we've spoken about 10 horses now, so it's clearly an open race.
Ben, you're so right to point out that she's a daughter of Frankel, and Cracksman remains Frankel's sole Champions Day winner as a sire. So,
what is he, one from about 40 then?
Well, 2, because Cracksman won twice, didn't he?
Oh, of course, yeah. Of course, I shall have to sharpen up my stats. Okay, right then, we're getting to the really good stuff now, because it's the 325 and it is the QE2, and it looks an absolute crackerjack renewal if they all turn up. And with the weather set, it's just I think they will. There's only one place to start, DJ, really, and that's Field of Gold.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really say anything that people don't already know about him, and it's just a case of whether it's a Field of Gold that turned up at Royal Ascot runs here, or the one that was unlucky in the Guineas, or the one that was unfortunate and clearly had an issue at Goodwood, because he sets a clear standard on form. If we presume Delacroix isn't going to turn up here, then he's got at least £4 in hand. He's the only horse in here that's got the P, and you think back to what he was showing in the midsummer, and I did think he was going to be that horse that went unbeaten and turned up here, there, and everywhere, and was going to be clear horse of the year material, and it just hasn't worked out for him. He's obviously couldn't have a better team to get the rebuild job in, but this is a competitive race, 13-8. I'm not going to put anybody off trying to get him beat, because the negatives are easy enough to see.
How do you approach this sort of horse, GC, when he's on a bit of a retrieval mission, but we know with the back class that he's probably a good bet at 13-8?
Yeah, I'd be wanting 2-1 or slightly bigger, to be honest. And I think you'll probably get that given the nature of the opposition. Rosalion's a Group 1 winner, Fallen Angels multiple Group 1, Never So Brave Group 1 winner, Docklands Group 1 winner this season at Ascot. Factor Cheval's a Group 1 winner. So I'll be surprised if someone doesn't stick their neck out and go 2-1 and 9-4. I think I'd sum him up by saying I don't think there have been too many genuine wow moments in this flat season. I think the St. James Palace was a wow moment. The way he sauntered clear of 2 Guineas winners was mighty, mighty impressive. And if he's that sort of all still, he's definitely the one to beat. But this is a fascinating race because of the depth. And a bit of breaking news, it's taken a while. It's taken till this morning. But the name of S. Levy has finally appeared against the name of Rosalian to ride him. So that's good news for Sean this weekend, because I suspect I wasn't the only one looking that blank space against Rosalian and think the Sheikh who must be obeyed might have finally stomped his foot. But Sean Levy looks like he's going to be back aboard Rosalian. I couldn't back Rosalian, to be honest. I'm not inclined to believe some of the excuses that have been made for him. He's 0 from 5 since his St. James's Palace win last week. It's great to see him here, but I didn't buy into the theory like some did in the Moulin last time that he was a desperately unlucky loser. What do you think, chaps?
I think he was.
What do you think, Matt, about Rosalian? Sorry, go on, DJ.
No, I was just going to say, I think he was unlucky. And, you look at the sectionals in terms of the ground that he had to make up and the position that he found himself in. But he is becoming one of those kind of horses. That's how he's going to be ridden, and that the excuses are often going to have to be made for him. And he was about 7-1, wasn't he, at the start of the week? He's half that price now, and I wouldn't be prepared to risk him at the current odds.
But David, okay, if you give him credit for a narrow win in the Moulin, he's still come out just better than Sarlan, the Lion in Winter, and Alcantor in a bunch finish. That is £7 away from what's going to be needed here, chaps, isn't it?
That's the key, isn't it? He could have won and not advanced his claims, his form at all. Absolutely right. I think we sort of know how good he is. I might feel a bit harsh. Definitely, you felt for them, didn't you, after the Sussex Stakes? That was the race where Richard Herring's face said it all.
Absolutely.
That was brutal. But the 2 subsequent efforts, you think you know where we're at with him. I've got absolutely nothing clever to say here at all, Scoop, because I think Field of Gold will win.
It's Never So Brave not on your radar, Matt, because he's just improved and improved, hasn't he?
He's going to need to keep going, isn't he? I just wonder if he's done his improvement. He's going to have to sort of step up again massively, I think, to beat this Field of Gold and give him weight.
That's only if Field of Gold turns up and gives his running, though, isn't it? You don't necessarily know that's going to happen.
Yeah. But it's factored in because he's a 4 to 6 shot, 4 to 5 shot, I think, Field of Gold on the form, as you said. Yeah. I don't think we'll come to loggerheads about this.
He seems to have got better. He's got better with every run this season, Never So Brave. And his City of York Stakes, I know it wasn't super flashy, but he got the job done tidily with Rosalian behind. The 3rd, the 4th, and the 7th have all polished that form. So I would fear him if I am a Field of Gold fan. I would fear him much more than Rosalian or Fallen Angel or the Lion in Winter, who are all in the market here. I don't think the Lion in Winter is an especially good horse, and his head carriage is a bit awkward. Fallen Angel, it's a bit late in the day, but is this her first time ever in against high quality colts? I think that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't think of one.
Yeah, I don't fancy her at all. I think the way that this race is going to set up compared to how she had everything away in the Sun Chariot, I could see her going off like 14, 16 to 1 or something. I'm with you on Never So Brave, and I like the way that the race is probably going to set up. He's going to be ridden to run well, isn't he? And against a short price favourite, that's a pretty good each way option. And if he does run well and runs to the kind of form that he's shown already, I think he's got a real good chance of finishing in the first 3. Possibly you might only need him in the top 4 by the time of the day of race decks.
Speaking of written to run well, would anyone put me off a couple of dollars each way at Factor Cheval at a big, big price? Second in this race ×2?
No, certainly not. And you'd have to say ran pretty well in the Juddmonte International GC. Maybe didn't quite get home there, so back to a mile will suit him. Just looking, look, I'm in the same boat as everyone else, really. Field of Gold looked to a superstar mid-season. The Colin Keane, who we're saying doesn't ride Ascot very well. Well, he rode him perfectly fine, winning the St James's Palace on him. So, if he's back to that sort of form, he'll win. That's my take on this particular race. I like Fallen Angel a lot, but I take the lad's point. I mean, she's rattled up a hat-trick of Group 1 wins. There's a lot to like about her, but this is probably a much stiffer task for her. And, GC, I can see the angle factor. Cheval, looking at the Irish challenge here, it's not particularly strong. The Line in Winter. If somebody told me at the start of the year that we'd be talking in October about the Line in Winter and he still hadn't won a race, I wouldn't have believed it. But his year just hasn't panned out the way that they expected it to. And yeah, I take your point. He's looked a little bit ungainly off the bridle on a few occasions. Johnny Murtaugh's kind of rolling the dice here with Alakazi, who has been a progressive colt for him. He's a big unit. He might be even better next year. But every time I've seen him this year, I thought he's been crying out for 1.25 miles, and I just couldn't see him being good enough in this company. So it's field of gold for me.
Okay, that wraps up the QE2 rather nicely, because we're going to get on to what I think is the best race of the day, isn't it? The QIPCO British Champions Stakes Ombudsman. Obviously the one at the top of the market, but we've got Delacroix in there as well, and Calandagan. And GC, it's all set up to be an absolute cracker.
It's tremendous. There's no two ways about it. It's Aga Khan studs, the Godolphin and Ballydoyle. It's Barcelona versus Sumion and Buick. It's Appleby versus O'Brien and Graffo. And it's 3 horses who are all in the prime of their lives and rated 125 plus. So it's a spectacular race, and it's got some depth in numerical terms with a pacemaker that should give us a really, really good spectacle. So I'm not looking too far beyond the obvious, but this is the race of the season to me, and it's not even close.
DJ, what do you think the key factor could be on Saturday? How do you sort of separate these 3 big guns at the top of the market?
I find it really difficult, and I must be a very fickle person, because when I watch the Juddmonte, I'm definitely going to side with Ombudsman. But then I go back and I watch the Eclipse and I watch the Irish Champion, and I want to side with Delacroix, and then it gets confusing because I rewatch the King George. And I think it is that kind of race. There's a fag paper between them. It's going to come down to a little bit of luck here and there. Who gets the best ride? Who gets the best look? And I don't have a strong view from a betting point of view, but I'll certainly be tuning in to watch it, because like GC says, it's the race of the season and it's what we want to see. It's the very best horses taking each other on, and hopefully this is the day that no one will have any excuses.
Can I ask you all this very, very quickly? Maybe it's just a cynic in me. Were you surprised when Aidan came out on Saturday and said the lads want to run Delacroix in this race? Because I was expecting, how shall we say, a diplomatic withdrawal. What do you think, Billy?
If you told me that he was running this weekend, GC, I would have assumed that they were going to run him the QE2, because I don't see he's a very, very valuable commodity to Coolmore, and he's not going to add to it too much by winning this, I don't think. If he happened to win a QE2, like his Sir Dubawi did back in the day, then I do think that might boost his stallion earning potential, maybe not by too much. But I am surprised he's running in this race. What that does tell me is that he must be flying at home, because they wouldn't run him here unless they were absolutely 100% happy with him. If you're a Delacroix fan, I think the fact that he is running is very positive, but it's a cracking race. I mean, there's little, as the lads were saying, there's little between himself and Ombudsman. And Ombudsman, when he's been good, has looked really, really good this year. And again, went so close in the race last year, so dropping back to 1.25 miles won't inconvenience him, especially if it's truly run. But the one thing I am interested in, we had the whole thing about Ombudsman not coming to the Irish Champion Stakes because John Gosden didn't want to take on the Ballydoyle contingent. Will Aidan run all 5 of his in this race just to mess with John Gosden, I wonder? Huh? Is that a possibility that he'll throw them all in here? So Team Ballydoyle will be against Ombudsman. Look, it's probably not going to happen, but hopefully we get a clean race. Hopefully it's a champion stakes. It's a proper champion stakes, this race. There's proper champions in it, and we're going to get a really good winner one way or the other.
How do you see it, Matt?
You ask the question of how do you go about splitting them, and price is what I start with every single time, because are we still looking around 7-2 Calandagan? Because let me just read out his SPs from his last 5 starts, which were 6-4 favourite in this race last year, 11-10, 8-13, 1-2, and 11-10, all in Group 1 company. And he's now 7-2, having won his last 2. I think he's
3-1,
classed
best price in the village. But yeah,
3-1 Calandagan. I'd be erring towards him at the top of the market. Delacroix, I've loved his season. I've loved following him through, Derby and Derby trials and everything else. He, to me, was ridden in the Irish Champion Stakes like that was the last race of his life. That would just be at the back of my mind. Okay, he's here and he must be showing all the right signs. I would never doubt that team at all. But 11-4, 5-2, I would have to be against him. Ombudsman really should be favourite based on that wicked performance that he put up at the Royal meeting. But Calandagan at the top of the market, and I would mention as well, it's just great that Andrew Boulder's running both, isn't he? His 2, he's obviously trying to climb up the ladder a little bit as well in the Trainers Championship. We've got to mention that Boulding is currently second. As we went through the earlier races, I think most of us had Gosden's winning at least 2 of those races, possibly the 1-2 in the Cup. I've got it down here that if the Gosdens had the 1-2 in the long distance Cup, they managed to snare the 2-year-old race with my each way fancy in the QE2. It'd be 10 grand behind Aidan O'Brien. It would be literally going down to the Champion Stakes. So another thread through the day. It'd be fascinating to see how it goes. They have a chance of winning the title. Ombudsman, the horse to beat, but I am going to chuck in Fox Legacy. He'd be my sort of big price of the day. I've backed him each way at 25-1. We've seen big price horses win this. This is the race where we're going to find out whether, as GC said at the very top of the show, whether this sort of good ground Champions Day is going to change things entirely, because we have had 40-1, 12-1, 9-1, 11-1 winners of this in the past 5 or 6 years. It has thrown up surprises. We'll see how it goes, but I do like Fox Legacy. I know Oisin Murphy, think he's booked on the other horse already. But this is the ex-Stout angle again. He's won his big handicaps. He probably could have won the Hunt Cup. He sort of won his mini race in the small group that he raced up the centre in the Royal Hunt Cup. And then it was Goodwood last time where everyone's ears pricked a little bit, because he was just given one of those rides, wasn't it? It was kind of, let's see what we've got. And Oisin bounced him out, kicked on a long way out, and he won ears prick, poured it on. Wasn't a brilliant race, let's be honest, but he beat Liberty Lane handsomely by 7 lengths. That one's come out and finished 5 lengths behind Almeric, so I'd certainly prefer Fox Legacy of the Balding too. And we're getting a big price, so I want to be involved in the race financially, and I want to back something at a big price each way. So Fox Legacy ticks the boxes for me.
nice big price one for Matt in the Champion Stakes. It looks a hell of a race. Cannot wait to see it.
Couple of quick points, but can I finish off, Ben?
You can.
I'm an ombudsman. I came away from the Eclipse thinking he was probably a better horse than Delacroix, and I came away from York thinking he definitely is. He can sustain his acceleration for a long time, that horse. So I'm very keen on him. Aidan O'Brien is 1 from 34 on this day since Magical's 29 Champion Stakes win, and he's 0 from 25 with Colts in the Champion Stakes.
Wow.
Yeah, courtesy of
staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, courtesy of Andy Stevens. So I'm an Ombudsman fan, and I do think that Fox Legacy is improving fast, but I'd be very content to maybe back him top 4 a place only. But to back him to win, you are effectively saying that he's either a 130 horse, or that 3 horses who are in prime form rated 128, 126 and 125 are all going to underperform, and that goes against my religion to do something like that.
I've got a feeling Aidan might be 1 from 26 with his Champion Stakes Colts after this race on Saturday, but we shall see. Right, does anybody want to say anything about the Balmoral before we wrap up? Hands up if you've got one for the Balmoral.
Yeah, I've just done the race. I've been Trying to
Okay,
find my
safe.
notes. Yeah.
It's all on you.
I've got an
Okay,
I've
well,
got an
just
anti-post
Go on,
position on
David.
Apurist. I
Go
thought he
off,
shaped
man.
really well behind Native Warrior, but I'm sweating on whether he's going to get in. I think he's 22. It's a maximum field size of 20. And it's usually the case that whatever is in this race at this stage, they don't come out because obviously it's their last chance for
Yeah.
him to go for a big pot. So I'm sweating on him getting in. But if he does, I'd be pretty hopeful. Like I said, I thought he shaped well in the 7 furlong race behind Native Warrior last time.
Right. I've had a good look at this Balmoral recent
Kevin
as
Ryan,
well,
was
so
that,
my
DJ?
memory's fresh. Yeah. Yeah, he's
Kevin
he's
Ryan
not
was.
he's not had a winner on Champions Day, Kevin Ryan. Also,
Where'd you get
Aldari.
that from?
Oh, you know where I got that from. Aldari is
With
the
Andy Stevens on the pod.
and
Cut out the middleman.
this. He's putting in an invoice as we speak. Aldari is the sole 3-year-old Balmoral winner from 32 runners, and he's the only one to defy a penalty from 19 who've tried. Here comes Native Warrior. Oh, excuse me, he's 4, but he's got a penalty. He's been really impressive under Spencer in 2 big Ascot handicaps at 7 furlongs. Horses I'm gonna put up as I think strong chances. It's an unusual one. This. What do you think, fellas? Haggis bringing this Crown of Oats back from a mile and a quarter to a mile. Now, I think that Irish race last time might have come a bit too soon for him. But when he bolted up a mile and a quarter Ascot softish ground, have a look at that form. He absolutely demolished some handy horses who've all polished the form since. So he's still interesting. But is a 3-year-old. Ashim Murphy's 2 from 2 on him. Very impressive at Ascot last time. And an old favourite of mine, way further down, EBT's Guard. He probably won't win, but he's dead consistent. And one absolute snake. This horse is one of the biggest thinkers in British racing, but he's really talented. Oliver's Show for Bowie and Billy Lochnan. He's 33 to 1 at the moment. But the day he gets covered up in a strongly run race and sees a bit of daylight with about 3 seconds left, he'll poke his naughty head through and run well. So had a good look at the Balmoral, a really, really hot race to end. I think a card that stacks up with anything we've seen in British racing all season.
Yeah, terrific card. Thanks for that, GC. We're going to wrap up now with I want 3 names from each of you. We want a short priced horse that you're for, a short priced horse that you're against, and then 1 big priced each way fancy. So, DJ, this was your idea, so I'm coming to you first. You must have 3 up your sleeve.
Yeah, well, Matt sort of made the case about why you might be against Ombudsman, and I think at around sub 2 to 1, I think you've got enough running for you if you did take him on. Field of Gold nearly made that list as well for similar reasons. The one towards ahead of the betting that I'm with is Kalpana. Obviously, no point repeating the positive noises that made earlier in the pod, and it's a similar case with the outsider that I'm keen on. It's Witness Stand in the sprint, who I think there's still plenty of 33s, and I think you'll get a run for your money there with his 7 furlong form, at least as good as what a lot of these 6 furlong horses have been doing.
Okay, Billy, same to you.
Okay, the short price one that I'm with is Field of Gold. I think if he's anywhere near his best, he'll win this. I'm going to go against DJ Kalpan. I'll take her on in the Fillies and Mares race. I think this is possibly 1 race too many for her this year after a tough run in the Arc. Again, in the sprint, it's wide open. Look, you can do all year in sprints, stick a pin in it and see where it lands. But I think not a huge price, but I think Rayevka at about 10 or 12 to 1 should certainly give you a run for your money.
Okay, Matt, your 3, please.
Also with Field of Gold. I'm with Field of Gold in the QE2. I can't really see a way to take him on. I will be opposing Delacroix in the Champion Stakes. He's been on the go a long time. He's his 7th run of the season. I think there's enough to take him on. And as I say there in the Champion, I will be throwing a few quid each way. A Fox Legacy at a big price, and probably a few quid, an even bigger price at 10 Bob Tony as well if he's declared for the sprint.
Okay, I like it. And JC, final word to you.
Yeah, I want to try and nail this Champion Stakes if I can. And I'm an ombudsman. I think he's that kind of good. I think he's the potential horse of the year. Goslings don't hype the horses or use the purple prose in the way that Aiden does, but this horse is York and Ascot wins were tremendous. So he's the one for me. I'm going to go against Delacroix, and he could make me blush, but I'm just not sure that he's as good as Ombudsman. I was tempted by Factor Cheval at a big price, but I'm going to nominate this snaky thing in the Balmoral Oliver Show for George Bowie and Billy Loughnane. And it just comes back to me as I mentioned that race, that John Gosden and Thady saddled 5th column, and the Gosden stable have saddled 5 runner-ups in the Balmoral without winning it. It all comes back to me now, Ed.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, gents. I've got producer Dom screaming in my ear that we've just ticked over an hour, but that was an enjoyable hour talking about all things British Champions Day at Ascot on Saturday. Good luck if you're having a bet on Saturday, and if not, just enjoy the action. It should be absolutely fantastic.
Download the Sporting Life app for the best racing coverage, including live racing blogs, fast results, stable tours, trainer and jockey interviews, expert opinion and tips.